If you've been recently diagnosed with ALS, I'm here to tell you that it's been 8.5 years since my diagnosis. I can still take 170 steps with my walker, and I'm still breathing on my own. And there's a lot of things that I can't do, but I remember when the doctor diagnosed me, and and she said, "Do you have any questions?" And I said, "I only have one. How long do I have?" And she said, "Well, most patients usually have 3 to 5 years after diagnosis." Well, it's been 8.5. I did get ready for, putting my affairs in order and everything. And my wife and I, we had about as good a time as we could have had. Uh, but then nothing ever happened. And I've been slowly, ever so slowly, going downhill since then. Sometimes I need help getting dressed. Sometimes I need help in the shower, like um, combing, washing my hair. Uh, just here lately, within the past month, and it comes and goes. Sometimes I get muscle spasms in my neck, and I get muscle spasms in my arm right here. And this morning I could feel right here was real tight because the muscle had contracted. Uh, but I'm here to tell you that just because you got a diagnosis of ALS, that not necessarily is it going to be 3 to 5 years. Uh, the most famous doctor that I found in the United States is Dr. Richard Bedlack. He's the he's a neurologist from Duke University. Uh, a lot of neurologists are specialists when they, like my neuro. Let me back up for a minute. My neurologist, uh, she specializes in ALS. She runs an ALS clinic, and she's ran it since 1995. My my first diagnosis wasn't actually a diagnosis, but it was a neurologist that I went to, and he gave me the standard EMG and nerve conduction study, and he didn't like what he seen. And he looked at me and he told me, he said, in his Asian accent, he was actually, I'm not making fun of him. He was really cute. He's like, "I think maybe ALS." And I remember his eyes started to water. It's like I don't think he told a lot of people that they had ALS, but he's seen it, but he didn't want to say anything, so he sent me to an ALS specialist. And still then, it took about 2.5 years of going to see the ALS specialist before I was even diagnosed, because I had, like a lot of people, I was diagnosed when I was 56, and if you're 56 years old, you probably got some spinal stenosis, which is basically your bones start collapsing on your spinal cord. Well, I had some of that in the back of my neck, and she said, that could be it. That could be causing these fasciculations in your muscles to act like it is. So you have to have surgery first. So I had surgery. I just got done seeing a high school teacher from California who started doing his ALS journey on YouTube, and he had to have the same thing done. He was 56 years old, and he was just diagnosed in April. And so I had that done, and then you have to have every single blood test in the entire world you have to have done, because the first thing that they have to do is eliminate everything that it could possibly be. I mean, it could be heavy metal toxins. Anyways, you have to have every single blood test. I mean, a lot of them. I don't know how many. I mean, it's a thick book of blood tests that you have to have. And then I had to have a CT scan of my entire body. And that's when they found the spinal stenosis. So it's a CT scan on 3 parts of your body, basically all of it. They have to make sure all that's right. They have to make sure every single blood test is done. And then it's a test called an EMG, a nerve conduction study. And if the ALS specialist sees that in 3 different regions of your body, that is called probable ALS. And you can't let the word probable get you confused. A diagnosis of probable ALS is a diagnosis of ALS. You only get diagnosed with definitive ALS later on in life, later on in your ALS life, like when both your legs are not working, both your arms are not working, then you get a definitive diagnosis of ALS. Just like most people my age know Stephen Hawking. I'm surprised the number of young people that don't know Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking had it for over 50 years. It wasn't too tough for me to take. I think I've only cried one time, and that was when I was actually went to Washington D.C. to advocate for the ALS Association, and was up there talking to a bunch of congressional representatives and stuff, and basically told them that I didn't want to die this way. One leg stops working, then another leg stops working, then one arm stops working, then another arm stops working, and then you can't swallow, and then you can't breathe, and then they will put you on if you want, you can be put on a respirator, and the only thing that you can move on your entire body is your eyeballs. That's it. And eventually you will die of it if you live that long. I'm a veteran, and the one thing about ALS that stands out for the veteran community is veterans are 2 to 3 times as more likely than the general population than people who had never been in the military. They're 2 to 3 times more likely to get ALS than somebody who's never been in the military. For that reason, the Veterans Administration, we get free medical care from the VA, and I have a power wheelchair, and they help buy buy the first wheelchair van, and pretty much any equipment that I need, the VA helps me get it. Um, you'll hear things that they call twitches, and a lot of people have these twitches and they get scared that they have ALS. In my lower legs, I've had twitches, and doctors call them fasciculations. And it's just when your skin jumps, it's your muscles will they'll they'll pop, they'll just pop out. And doctors call them fasciculations. We call them twitches. In my lower legs, I've had twitches now for, I was diagnosed 8.5 years ago, but I've had them for maybe 9.5 years. They have never stopped. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The twitches have been in my lower legs. But now I get twitches all over my body. I get them in my upper arm, I get them in my arms, I get them in my chest, my belly, my back, my buttocks, my thighs. I get them everywhere. Sometimes I'm sitting here and, I'm just going like this and watching some YouTube videos, and I'll have a Charlie horse in my arm. I'll be rubbing my beard and have a Charlie horse in my arm. Have a lot of Charlie horses in my legs. Try to drink as much water as possible. Try to stay hydrated. Try to keep the muscles hydrated. As I'm sitting here talking to you right now, in my left forearm, I can feel the muscles inside my forearm moving. It's not fun. They say, getting old is not fun. Well, getting old and having ALS, that's not fun either. There's no cure for it. It eventually, you will die from it if you don't die from something else at first. They're not even anywhere near close to a cure. But my main message for my first video, and this is my first video on ALS I'm ever putting out, I'm not very comfortable in front of the camera, as you can tell, but my main message is because the doctor says you have 3 to 5 years, it's not necessarily true. My main message is never give up hope. And every single person who has ALS is different. Some people lose muscle strength in one part of the body, another person loses muscle strength in another part of the body. Like right now, I could still walk 170 steps with using a walker. If I go out to Target or Walmart or something like that, then I have to take the power wheelchair. But I just took some pills, and it took about 4 drinks of this coffee to get those pills down. So I'm scheduled for a swallow test. I could be losing swallow muscles. I don't know. Every person is different. I knew one person. I actually worked with his wife. He was a veteran, and he got ALS, and his was called bulbar ALS, and he passed away in less than 6 months. He went really fast. I've had ALS more than 8.5 years. It's just been 8.5 years since the doctor officially diagnosed me. And like I said, she says you have probable ALS, but probable doesn't mean you probably have it, maybe you don't. No, a diagnosis of probable ALS, this is just the way doctors talk, is actually a diagnosis of ALS. So if you get to see this video, You can write some comments down at the bottom if you have any questions. I've had it for 8.5 years. I know a lot of doctors. I know the best doctor in the United States for ALS. His name is Richard Bedlack. He practices at Duke University in North Carolina. I can tell you about the ALS clinic. I can tell you about Social Security. I can tell you about veterans benefits. I would be more than happy to share any knowledge that I have. And if I don't know the answer to the question, I will be able to point you out to a person who can get you the answer. I appreciate you listening to this first video. If anybody sees it, if there's any comments on it, I'm going to do some more. For example, I want to do one about my house, which has been rehabbed for a person who has ALS. How my bathroom is set up, how I can get up to my bathroom counter with my power wheelchair, to even how my microwave is set up in the kitchen, to where if I wanted to make myself a hot sandwich in a microwave, my whole house has been remodeled to accompany me in my ALS. A lot of questions. If you have any, please reach out to me. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching. We'll see how my first video goes. Thank you. God bless you.